So do you think Biden might use the military? Will it be the opposite of what they're talking about?
Well, generally, when it comes to the radical left, they always accuse us of things that they're actually guilty of. Weaponizing the system of justice, prosecuting baselessly their political opponents, putting free speech supporters in and around January 6th in prison, going after your political enemy who dares to say we're MAGA or America First Patriots. So, when Joe Biden says, well, first of all, when he says anything, it's almost impossible to understand. But when he says statements like this, the media lauds him for it. And they're like, oh, yeah. Joe Biden, who has destroyed the Department of Defense and our military and our national security, he's the one that's somehow going to be able to utilize it to make sure he prevents Donald Trump from illegally coming into office. That's going to be their narrative. So for them, he's justified in doing anything he wants with our military, so long as that's it. It's the get Trump narrative. How are we going to, and who is going to be the person or group that comes in and prevents Donald Trump from returning to the presidency? And if they fail in that matter, they're working on 17 different things to kneecap in when Donald Trump becomes president.
If you look at what's happening out in the Middle East and you look at our open borders, I mean, there's a lot of people out there saying, we're ripe for something to happen here in the United States. And if something does happen, let's say it's a Houthi terrorist or it's someone from Iran, I mean, I don't know, Hezbollah, whatever. If something does happen here, would he be able to call out the military to have them on U.S. soil? Let's say there is a terrorist that made it, it would pretty much shut down his open border argument, because if they came over the border and they're terrorists, that would kind of screw everything for him. But if something does happen here in the United States, could he use the military and have them on U.S. soil? Could he say that we were attacked somehow?
Well, look, that's my fear. And you don't have to take our word for it. Chris Wray and Mayorkas testified to Congress a couple of months ago under oath that at least 24 known foreign terrorist affiliates have illegally come in through the southern border during the Biden administration, and they, FBI, DHS, don't know where they are. Literally, they've lost them. How scary is that?
So they don't know where they are in this country.
They don't know where they are. And I don't believe that number for a second. You're telling me 11 million illegal immigrants have come in, and only 24 of them are foreign terrorists? The CCP, Iran, and Russia, and terrorists are seeding these people in through our southern border for the specific purpose of coming at us domestically, like you're talking about. And they'll come into our communities and just wait. And they'll hang out there, and they'll do what they did before 9/11 and go to places like San Diego and become members of our everyday society until they are told operationally it's go time. And that's what you're talking about. So they're here because Biden let them in because of his disastrous southern border. And, God forbid if they were to do something, I don't think there's anything Joe Biden could do to safeguard this country. But of course, you would now then see, ironically, the largest mobilization of the National Guard. Everybody would be like, oh, look at what the National Guard can do. And then the FBI would, of course, come in and try to Bigfoot everybody else and say, we've got everything under control. We're going to go get the bad guys. And then you have people like Mark Milley and Lloyd Austin and Joe Biden go drone strike children and thump their chests and lie to the world about how good they are at defending this country. These are the people, the adults. These are the adults that are in charge of our national security. And so if there was a domestic terrorist event in America, I don't believe for 1 second Joe Biden and the FBI would have the ability to track down the perpetrators and hold them accountable and put them to justice.
So did you just say that the National Guard would be mobilized if something happens? They're the first one in the front line?
Well, legally, under the Constitution, you can't deploy uniformed military soldiers domestically.
Okay.
Comitatus, Supreme Court case, constitutional law is very clear. Like at DOD, I couldn't, if there was an event like you're talking about in America, let's go back to 9/11, the military wasn't deployed. National Guard was deployed to augment and assist local law enforcement and federal law enforcement with, day-to-day security, and what we call the zeros and the ones. But they're not going to be there's no force we can deploy domestically per the Constitution to do that. Now we can, and what should happen is with an attack like that, if it were to occur, there's going to be some international nexus. There's going to be some terrorist organization somewhere, and that's what the military would be able to operationally get after.
So let me ask you this. I mean, Trump, he was giving an interview, and he says his personal opinion is that Biden is going to drop out before the election. Is that your opinion also? You think Biden will not make it?
I do. I don't think Biden's the Democratic nominee. And I think the radical left has already been planning to get him out of there. And it's not going to be Kamala Harris either. They're sidelining them. They've already basically told her, you're not it. And if you watch anything she does, she's like the most dejected human being in any interview she does after that stupid cackle she has to respond to every single question of substance she's asked. So I think, I honestly think the deep state, the same folks that are setting up Donald Trump or trying to kneecap him, are the ones that are going to take out Biden. Now, whether it's because he commutes the sentence or pardons Hunter for all the criminal conduct that's now coming out, and that's his off-ramp, I don't know the exact maneuver, but I would say in the next 60 to 90 days, they're going to airdrop in a new candidate because the deep state, know that they have no shot with President Biden. I don't think they have a shot with anyone, but They have no shot with President Biden in defeating the momentum Donald Trump has created around the country and the desire that Americans have for his policies to come back into play for national security and the economy. There's not one person running who has a better policy, a better message, and a better movement than 45.
So how is Biden going to do it? Is he just going to say he's going to drop out? Because that would look terrible on the world stage. Like, hey, by the way, I'm not going to run because, everything I did was terrible and I destroyed America and I decided not to run. I mean, for those Democrats that are still, go Biden, how is he going to explain to everyone why he's not running? Because every point up to right now, he's been saying, no, he's the candidate, he's the candidate, he's the candidate.
Right.
And now all of a sudden he's going to drop out?
Look, the Democrats, the one thing they're good at is unifying against a common enemy. And their common enemy is Donald J. Trump and his movement. And what they'll do is they'll provide Joe Biden with an off-ramp. And whether it's that, we're going to pardon your son after they, of course, charge his son with even more crimes, which I think are coming. Whether it's that and he says, okay, and then they're going to go out and glorify him in the media and say, look, we're going to tell everyone in the world you were the guy that saved us from Donald J. Trump. Thank you for doing that. You're going to be a historic legacy. They're going to give him the golden parachute. Now, I don't know if he's going to be able to comprehend that because he can't literally put together one single sentence as a commander-in-chief. But they're going to create the narrative for him. I don't know the exact mechanism of how they're going to do it, but they're just going to literally say, you're not it. This is our money. We're going with this person. And that's going to be it.
So who do you think that person's going to be? I mean, and the New York Post actually put out an article, I think it was Cindy Adams, who said, they're going to sneak in Michelle Obama. Newsom, when we start to look at all the different candidates, like Newsom, I mean, DeSantis destroyed him during that debate. I don't know if he's able to do it. I mean, they might throw him in. Pritzker, I think he's a felon governor in Illinois, and I don't know how much popularity he has. So, I mean, in your opinion, who do you think they will bring in to replace? It has to be someone that is popular, someone that holds a lot of weight. I guess someone that is like unscathed, or there's no like scandal, corruption. That someone halfway clean. I think they need to bring in.
Well, I don't think they have anyone that's quote unquote unscathed, and I don't think they care. I think it's going to be Gavin Newsom. I think they think he's the JFK of their time. I mean, this guy destroyed California, but they don't care. They own the media. They've glorified this guy for the last decade. He's essentially been kind of running for president. I mean, this guy hosted Xi Jinping in California. This is how out of their mind they are. And brought him to American soil and said, oh, look at the great job you're doing. And I think he's the guy. I don't know if Michelle Obama and the Obamas are going to want to do something like this again, because are they going to want to be the ones that destroyed their own quote-unquote legacy by losing to Donald Trump? I don't know that they jump in. I think the more likely candidate is Gavin Newsom, who's been basically their quote-unquote white knight in this, and he's been shadowing around and kind of campaigning and raising money. And he's got name recognition. For the Democrats and the radical left, he's the guy. He's the guy that won 4 years down the road if Joe Biden were, God forbid, ever get a second term. So he's the guy they're going to drop in now, in my opinion.
So do you think, I mean, now they're talking about disease X, they're talking about, it seems like they're going back to the same playbook as with COVID, where they going to try to push in, the mail-in ballot, the drop boxes and everything like that. Do you think as we approach the election and they realize, because I do believe that Trump has a lot more people with him now than he even did back in 2020. I think this goes far beyond what he had back then. Do you think it will be possible for them to cheat on a scale like they did in 2020 if his numbers are, 120, 130, 140 instead of just 70 or 75 million? Will they be able to actually bring that candidate to where they need that person to go and win the election? And if they can't do that, there's a lot of people talking about this. Do you think they will actually try to cancel the election? Not saying that they can, but you think they might try?
Look, it's only January. It's not even February. Right? We've got, my man sucks, 9 months, 10 months till the election. They're going to try a million different things between now and then. The deep state and the radical left are going to join forces like they always have on their get Trump mission and use the FBI, use the DOJ, use the intelligence community, use the DOD to put out disinformation campaign on Donald Trump. The terrible thing about the deep state and the radical left, when they combine forces with their conspirators in the media, is they're not doing one thing, they're doing 40 things. And here we are trying to figure out the top couple of things to sort of expose that corruption. And they're not going to stop, and they're funded by George Soros and his lunatic son, who, by the way, posted a picture of a bullet hole and a picture of $47, notating President Trump. And they're going to call for violence. They're going to call for a terrible scenario to play out for Donald Trump, and they're going to justify it in the media by saying, it's okay, it's him, whatever, as if that were ever the answer. So between that narrative of extremism and physical harm and utilizing the deep state, they're going to, I wish I knew all the stuff, because then we could talk about it here and expose it, and we don't have a FBI or DOJ we can rely upon to go do that. And when you have U.S. attorneys like Matt Graves in D.C. saying there's another 1,000 arrests we're going to make for people who just showed up on January 6th, they're not even hiding it anymore. They're coming out in your face narrative, punching the MAGA America First movement and saying, we're going to take you out. We're going to use law enforcement to take out not just Donald Trump, but all of his supporters. They're telling us that publicly. What are they doing behind the curtain with the people that have scripted everything from Russiagate on? That's the scary part to me that we can't figure out just yet. And the question is, are we going to figure out in enough time to secure the next election that you're talking about? And I think the only way you do it, and I think President Trump's been out there saying, is you win by so much and you win so big that you neutralize any of these lines of efforts, illegal efforts they're utilizing against the Trump movement to take our election away from us. I know it's kind of a simple answer to a complex question, but I think if you could build a movement like you're talking about, to 100+ million voters, there is no stopping it. And I don't think they'll try to, quote unquote, cancel the election. I think they'll try to neutralize it by rigging the election with another con job that they come up with. And I just don't know exactly what the tier 1 effort is for them right now, other than everything they're already running on Jan 6th. DOJ on FBI, on Get Trump, on baseless prosecutions, whatever, it's Georgia, New York, D.C., elsewhere. They've already cooked up something else.
So you mentioned Alex Soros and the picture of a bullet hole and him, it was $47. I even think that one of the bills was a silver certificate. That
it was.
Yeah. So do you really think he's sending a message like, it's time to take him out?
I mean, just look at it this way. What if, I don't know, pick a Republican conservative media figurehead that, say Steve Bannon put out a tweet or something of a glass window with a bullet hole and $46 next to it. The mainstream media would lose their mind. And the thing with Soros is he's the guy funding all of these operations. They're not going anywhere. They have billions of dollars being pumped into all of the radical left-wing candidates and representatives and senators, and they have billions of dollars coming in to companies that are working with the FBI and DOJ and influencing Facebook and Twitter. And I don't care what anyone says. All those big tech companies are still getting paid by government-funded contracts to quote-unquote secure the election. Chris Wray just testified to it like last month. So I don't know how you neutralize that, but going back to your original question of, do you think they're talking about? They are talking about it. There's actually media that have talked about, God forbid, the passing of Donald Trump, and not by like natural causes. So they are actually justifying this sort of violence, this sort of ultimate weapon, because it fits their get Trump narrative. And when you have the biggest checkbook in the world, Soros and his kid, putting out disgusting information like that will lead to violence, maybe that's it. Maybe that's their ultimate weapon, that they're going to somehow justify violence against Trump and Trump supporters if that's what it takes to defeat him. Maybe they're going to say we can seize the Constitution and perform this duty and have Joe Biden or whoever the candidate is coming and be the one that quote-unquote enforces the law.
It's very interesting that Alex Soros put this up, because I remember Trump, he was being interviewed by Tucker, and Tucker actually asked him, are you worried about assassination? And he never really answered the question when Tucker actually asked him the question about assassination. Do you think Trump has enough protection to protect him, or enough information to protect him against something like this?
The folks around him are the best of the best. And, I've gotten to know them over the years. And I think they're doing an immensely wonderful job. And it's only going to get harder. So I have faith in them. And, but you're right, though. It just takes one crazy to come in at somewhere and sometime down the road when he sees the bullet hole picture, when he sees the fake news media narrative that it's somehow okay to put forward violence if the target is Trump and Trump supporters. So what we need to do is sort of help, the president expose that narrative and defeat that narrative, because not only is it unconstitutional, it's just a simple wrong thing to physically harm another individual for personal gain. And to use the government to do that is a way they would rig another presidential election. So we got to go out there and I think help President Trump by, talking about this evil that they're putting into the bloodstream. They always talk about how Donald Trump is quote unquote poisoning the bloodstream, but they're the ones calling for violence. And we have to be the ones that shut that down. And I think Donald Trump's handling it brilliantly. And, I hope that continues.
Cash, thank you very much for being on the X22 Report Spotlight. Once again, if people wanted to buy your book and watch and look at everything that you're doing, where should they go?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Go to governmentgangsters.com or anywhere books are sold. Amazon for Government Gangsters. Bestseller. Donald Trump called it the blueprint for 2024 and destroying the deep state. And there's only one place you'll find me, at Cash or KSH on Truth Social. I think my publicist told me yesterday there's some fake Twitter account with my name on it. It's fake, it ain't me. But come over to Truth Social right now.
Great, I'll put all the links at the bottom of the video. Once again, Cash, thank you very much for being on the Spotlight. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks so much for taking the time. Great comment as always.
Yes.